Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, doing our second stage of building the Estes Viking rocket. We have come to what is most likely to be the trickiest part of this build, and that is getting the fins on. Now, the fins, remember, are made of cardstock, and the problem with these is that they are extremely thin. As such, there's not going to be a whole lot of place for the glue to stick to the fins, which is going to be what's the tricky part of this build. Now, under most circumstances, you'll have your fins and you'll have the right number. This one has, we can use up to 5, so 3, 4, or 5. We'll have the right number, and there will be one way to attach them to the body, and it'll be very specific what that way is. Now, this kit in particular is designed for you to be able to experiment. So you can pick how many fins you want. I'm going to use 5. Then you can also pick how you want the fin to look on the rocket. This way is probably like the classic way. It's kind of swept back. But you could also do swept back with like the wider edge out at the tip, which you probably can't see through my hand, like so. How about that? Or we could do something like this, or like this. That would be an interesting one. You can attach these however you want. It'll fly one way or the other. How well it flies, it remains to be seen. You could actually do a science fair project with it. Might be fun. Personally, I'm going to go with what I view as like the most appropriate way to do it, which is to have the fin tapered this way and have this be the root edge. This is the edge that I'm going to glue on. So I'm going to have it look like this. Now, you could also, I mean, you could do it upside down. I don't know. But I'm going to go with this because this kind of feels right to me. You do it however you want. Regardless, the way you're going to do it is you're going to need some glue and you're going to need some patience because this is going to be tricky. So I'm going to put the tube down. I'm actually going to sit to do this, so I don't have to worry about keeping myself in the right position. I don't really need this scrap anymore, but I've been using it to keep my tool here from getting glue all over the place. Once you've decided what the root edge, that is the side you're going to glue, is, then you're going to put a little bit of glue on it. If you have a nice fine nozzle like this, it shouldn't be too hard, but wood glue often comes with a big wide one. If that's the case, you're probably going to want to make yourself a puddle here, take some, and then brush it on. I'm going to use this one way or the other, so I'm good to just directly apply it. Now, we just want a thin bit. And this is so narrow that even I have managed to get it kind of falling off the side here. That's okay. I've got my tool here. I'm going to, first of all, I want to spread out what I have on the top, kind of paint it along. And since I have it kind of dripping down the sides, I want to bring that stuff back up top and just paint it on. This extra stuff, I'm going to mop off with my finger and wipe it elsewhere for the time being. Now, for reasons that people have actually investigated pretty seriously, wood glue holds up best when you actually have it bond to itself instead of directly just to the tube. So I'm holding this here and talking on purpose to kind of kill time because I want this wood glue to set a little bit on the root edge before I do anything else, because I'm going to put a second little thin layer on this, and that should give me the best hold. So I usually put the glue on, brush it out, count to about 30. The instructions actually recommend that you leave it on for about a minute, and I've probably got to that point about now. So I'm going to put another very thin layer of glue here. Hardly any. I'm going to again use my little tool here to kind of brush out because there is some beads to it. There's some little bit of gloppiness. We don't want that. All right, that looks pretty good. I don't seem to have a whole lot falling off the side. Now I'm ready to actually go about attaching this. Notice that since I've been touching the glue, I want this to be clean because I want to get as little glue on the tube as possible. Now I'm going to pick one edge of this. Doesn't really matter which line I'm picking. I'm going to start here, I guess. And I'm going to do my best to line the fin up and just kind of like roll it onto the line. Now I can see where my fin is touching the edge of the line, but I can't really see behind that yet. So I want to get it as lined up as I can on this edge before I start letting go. All right. At this point, it's certainly not set at all. It will flop over on you. But I do want to make sure that it's lined up properly. So you can't see what I'm doing, of course, but I'm looking down the length of the tube, looking to see how well it's lined up. And it looks like it's pretty straight to me. It looks like it follows the line pretty well. If it's not, I could nudge it with my finger to try to get the back end lined up properly, but I don't really need to do that. The other thing I need to be concerned about is I like the fin to be going up at a right angle from the tube, and I can tell by looking at this, it is not. It's not really that close, frankly. So I'm just going to kind of tap the edge of the fin to try to get it closer to vertical. That looks pretty good. I do not need to do this perfectly right now. And in fact, I almost guarantee you, as I do the rest of this fin may very well fall off. That is a distinct possibility at this point. Wood glue takes a while to set, and like I said, this is so thin, there's not a whole lot holding it in place. I mean, it doesn't look that bad, frankly, at the moment, but I need to glue 4 more fins on, and in that time, any manner of thing could be happening. I'm not going to bore you with showing you how I'm going to attach the other 4 fins because it's basically the same procedure. It just gets increasingly difficult as you've got more and more fins on there, especially ones that haven't really set yet. So I'm going to pause this momentarily when I'm done talking here and glue the rest of them on and show you the final touches that we need to make to this. But just be aware. It's entirely possible your fins are going to fall off while you're fumbling around getting ready to put the next one on, or while you're putting the next one on, or while you're getting the glue on. It happens. It's not the end of the world. If it falls off, try putting it on again. The glue is going to be even more tacky, so it might hold better. It might make a little bit of a mess, but we can clean that up later. All right, so I'm going to pause at this point. I'm going to apply the rest of the fins, and then we'll see the last little step to deal with the fin attachment process. So I'm going to cut back in here. I'm about halfway done. I've got 3 of my fins on. This part is frankly really tricky because while you're letting the fins dry a little bit, while you're letting the glue set, you got to have something to do with this because if you just put it like this, it's unbalanced. It's going to want to fall over. I sometimes put mine over top the glue bottle, and that'll keep it generally upright, but not perfectly. That's an option. I actually have some dowels that are just about 18 millimeters in diameter, so we might look at using that to hold things up. But one way or the other, this is a pain to try to keep this in position while it's drying without falling over, without any of the fins coming loose. It's a pain. So do your best with this. I am almost done, and I will be back when I actually am. Okay, I've got my 5th fin glued on. It's still fairly fresh. We've got one important thing we need to do before the glue dries pretty thoroughly, and that is to make sure the fins are aligned. To do this, the instructions have actually provided us with kind of a template. Down here, see if I can center it up a little bit better, they're kind of like shadows that show the rocket body. So if you use 3 fins, you'd use this, 4 fins, this. I'm using 5, so I'm going to use this one right here. Now, you do not want to do this while the glue is still very, very fresh and running. Like as soon as you got the 5th fin on, don't do this because you will probably dislodge things. But the goal here is to very carefully center your rocket on the shadow, and then see how well your fins are lined up. Mine are not perfect. Yours probably won't be either, and that's okay. Yeah, and I've actually, it might even be easier, frankly, to kind of eyeball it this way vertically. So center the circle, the rocket body on the gray circle, and then look downwards. You should be able to see, hopefully, most of your fins are reasonably well lined up with what you've done here. But I have some that are kind of wonky. Like this one needs to be tilted this way to line up with the shadow. This one needs to be tilted this way a little bit to line up with the shadow. This one's pretty good. This one's pretty good. And the rest of them look pretty good too. I can then again flip it over and see how well things line up again here, pointed this direction. My problem here is that the paper, the instructions are not actually flat, which is making things a little difficult. But overall, I would say this looks pretty good. Is it perfect? No. No, it is not. But this is where you get to kind of nudge things and get them as close to perfect as you can pull off. I'm happy with this now, so I'm not going to mess with this anymore. I'm going to let this fully dry. There is one last thing to do for this section while we're here, and that is to attach the launch lug. That's this guy. Whoops. This guy right here. We drew the line on the rocket body for it, and we measured out how far it needs to go up. So all we need to do right now is put a little bit of glue down the tube. This we're not super concerned about because there aren't going to be a lot of forces acting on it. So I'm going to spread out the glue a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about waiting the minute. It'll be fine. Find my mark. And then I'm going to make sure that the lug is going straight through the line. It's kind of hard to do vertically sometimes, or horizontally, I guess, and vertically is actually a nice way to help. So if you look right through, you should be able to tell if it's straight or not. And this looks pretty good. Yep, I probably don't need to mess with this. Let's let this dry completely before we do anything else. In fact, we've basically done most of the construction. At this point, having a look through the instructions here, the only thing we really need to do at this point is install the shock cord and then do our finishing. That would be painting it. The shock cord, we'll do that later after we've completely finished it. The paint, yeah, I guess there's one little thing that we're going to do before we paint it, and that's put fillets around the joints here. But we're not going to do that till it firmly sets. A fillet, all you basically do is take some glue, run it down the seam, hopefully not too much, and then spread it with your fingers. That actually, it's good for the aerodynamics for one thing, but it also makes the joint significantly stronger. And since this is just paper glued to more paper, we probably want the joint to be pretty strong. So I'm not going to do that on camera. I want to wait for the glue to dry anyway. The next one, I guess, will be putting the finishing touches on this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.